We know the first shall be last and the last shall be first, but few people ask why. But the answer is everywhere and all around us. You see, the first are the ones who, being born into homes that were already being parented and maintained by peaceful-minded people, people who were already of the understanding of the celestial kingdom, or even some few of the celestial. And with the celestial understanding and the celestial understanding comes the ability to parent better and to create homes where the children simply grow up to become like their parents because it's the most natural and easy path. But the first shall be last because they also progress very slowly, lacking the daily practice that comes from living with people in the terrestrial world. They separate themselves into groups. They put themselves into clubs, into private places like temples and private clubs and the elite sort of places where they live in their little bubble existence. And it's a really wonderful thing, except their progress is always limited by their lack of practice. There are those who, rising out of the terrestrial existence into the celestial understanding, who are still very much deeply entrenched and engaged in the terrestrial reality, the terrestrial existence. And it is merely an existence because there's very little understanding. It's an unconscious repeating of poor, unproductive, even destructive thought patterns and choices. Therefore, thinking and acting as a result of those conditioned thoughts and feelings. And so there are those people today who may even still be very much terrestrial on their daily activities, but their minds have already ascended into the celestial understanding. And having that celestial understanding means they navigate the terrestrial existence with a different perspective. And they navigate interactions with terrestrial understanding, terrestrial existence differently. And their daily practice refines them, and they move through the celestial understanding much faster. And they have little glimpses and moments where they rise up quickly into the celestial understanding. And in that celestial understanding, they see themselves in a bigger picture. And from seeing themselves in a bigger picture, they then go back into their regular celestial understanding with a greater understanding of what they're working on and why. And with that, what they're working on, why, being completely surrounded and entrenched and enmeshed in the terrestrial existence, there is so much more mercy, so much more grace, empathy that simply celestial-minded children and people who live in their clubs where they, these groups literally surround themselves with themselves. They do it every Sunday, they do it on their studies, they do it in their seminaries, they do it in their temples, they do it everywhere they go. They want to be with people who are like themselves. And when they talk about their celestial kingdom as if it's some far-off reality, they're always making it like the way their existence is. And that is in an understanding that comes from something that is completely only what they know and absolutely vacant from everything that actually exists around them, but because they separate themselves from it, they're not aware. And as a result, they also don't have the practice and the patience and the mercy and the grace and the empathy and forgiveness because they've never lived in a terrestrial existence. They were born into telestial and celestial understanding. And having never experienced it except maybe in brief, let's say missions or times when they volunteer and they go in and there's still this other, and there's us and them, and not this understanding that the terrestrial existence is everywhere and all around us, because that sort of thinking and feeling is everywhere and around us. And so in a single home, there may be one person who lives most of their existence in the celestial understanding, but then every now and then the thoughts may come infrequently and growingly more infrequently as they become more practiced and master the celestial understanding, and they may dip into the celestial here and there. And then there are those within that same family, and say there's several people living in a family, and there's maybe a couple people who live most of their existence in a celestial understanding, and having that celestial-minded understanding in the home means that they have someone to guide, someone they trust, a teacher, a mentor, in the group mentality, it becomes a prophet or some leader that becomes worshipped rather than actually going inside, which is the purpose of a prophet. Is not to say, look at me and look what I can do and look at my light. It's to say, look at you and look what's in you. Find it, seek it. You will find it. You're worthy. And so in this family unit, you have people who, in the telestial understanding, are practicing because they're also living with people in a very terrestrial existence. And so they get that hard practice, that really challenging ground, sand in the pearl. Sand becomes the pearl because they are constantly being refined, constantly having to practice levels of mercy and grace and forgiveness and empathy, because they are seeing not only themselves in their terrestrial lessons and the people they share their space and time with, but they're also seeing the light of a celestial understanding that they can achieve. Because that celestial light, that person in their life is saying, it's in you, you're worthy, you can do it, keep practicing, don't give up, encouraging them. And in fact, that celestial minded person is very much encouraged by the telestial ones that are learning and growing, because every step they take towards mastery encourages them to keep working on themselves and not to get complacent in their celestial understanding, and to be more time and more space given to those in the terrestrial who actually need more. And often it feels very unfair for those in the telestial and the celestial understanding, because the ones in the terrestrial take so much extra time and energy. They take so much extra resources. They are so demanding, like little children are. They want more, they need more, they blame more. They victim mind almost as an instant go-to for everything that happens in life. And so the telestial and celestial-minded understanding requires so much more patience and requires so much more love, unconditional love, and realizing that it's okay to go without for somebody who really feels like they can't go without, and to suffer a little bit for someone else to suffer a little less, because the terrestrial existence is an existence where their minds and hearts are constantly berating them with intense levels of suffering. Everything makes them suffer. Everything is a catalyst to catastrophe. And that sort of drama-entrenched existence is exhausting on them. Their bodies deteriorate, their lives become chaotic, and those in the telestial and celestial must live peacefully in the midst of all of that. There is no better teacher than life. And those today who are the last, because we did not grow up in those celestial bubbles, but had to find it within ourselves, the light, because there wasn't one present. Or maybe we did have a little bit of spiritual teaching here and there from various places, and we saw leaders and teachers like Buddha and Jesus and the other powerful lights from our own history and ancestry that let us know that there is a way to find peace and light inside no matter what's going on around you. So why are the last first and the first last? Because the first are not entrenched in the lessons, and the last are the lessons. Stay brilliantly blessed.